I eat breakfast 300 yards from 4,000 Cubans who are trained to kill me, so don't think for 1 second that you can come down here, flash a badge, and make me nervous.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Service Management in the Movies. Today we're going to take a look at the 1992 film A Few Good Men to discuss a topic that many service management organizations struggle with, agreements, and how they can be used to establish and monitor clear expectations. So in this video, I'm going to use the word agreements versus contracts. Contracts are typically legal and binding, whereas agreements serve a somewhat different purpose. They spell out who does what, how, and why, so expectations are clear up front. Now, most service management failures aren't caused by missing contracts, but by unclear or non-existent agreements. When expectations are unclear, teams experience conflicts, inefficiencies, and unnecessary stress. A Few Good Men was written by Aaron Sorkin, directed by the late Rob Reiner, and stars Tom Cruise, Jack Nicholson, and Demi Moore. So A Few Good Men is a film about a young Navy attorney, Lieutenant Caffey, who is assigned to represent two soldiers accused of accidentally killing a third. And this all takes place within two rigid, very rules-driven systems, the military and the court system, and involves authority, accountability, and responsibility, all very relevant to service management. So on the one hand, establishing clear expectations is critical to effective service delivery. But on the other, many leaders and teams have a strong aversion to agreements. They consider written agreements as being too formal, too bureaucratic, or too punitive even. Let's start with fear, or at least the resistance to agreements. In this scene, Jessup, the colonel, is being interviewed.
You want to ask me about code reds on the record, I tell you I discourage the practice in accordance with the commander's directive. Off the record, I tell you it is an invaluable part of close infantry training, and if it happens to go on without my knowledge, so be it. I run my unit how I run my unit.
So I doubt that Jessup has any real fear, but he is certainly annoyed by being held to the same rules he imposes on others. Jessup commands through intimidation, essentially doing things his way. He sees outsiders as incapable of understanding what he does and all that he's accountable for. He views questioning with disdain and really dismisses any kind of oversight. He views accountability as interference, just let me do my job. And he lies and expects his subordinates to go along with his lies, which over time, of course, erodes trust. This is a great example of the aversion to agreements and metrics and the explicit guardrails that they provide. Agreements tend to limit unilateral authority, and metrics increase transparency and drive accountability. And together they make it much harder to say, well, that's not quite what I meant, as we'll see later in the film in a famous dramatic scene. That said, metrics shouldn't be about control or punishment. They should be used for feedback, learning, and continual improvement. So let's talk about implicit versus explicit agreements. In the movie, there is no written order. The Marines act believing what they're doing is they're doing what's expected, and in the end, what's right.
Yes, Captain. I was given an order by my squad leader, Lance Corporal Harold W. Dawson, United States Marine Corps, and I followed it.
So when expectations aren't explicit, people simply guess. They do what they think is the right thing. In this case, the result is a loss of one man's life. So this is the real issue. It's not about bad intent, but undocumented and unclear expectations. Code Red is an implicit agreement. We see implicit agreements all the time in service management. So this is very similar to everyone knows what's expected, so I write it down. Or when assumptions are made about how incidents or inquiries are handled. But often enough, when stepping a team through a process like during a workshop, I'll hear comments such as, well, that's not quite how I do it. So there's also a strong message in this movie about integrity.
We were supposed to fight for people who couldn't fight for themselves. We were supposed to fight for Willie.
So what does it mean to do the right thing when the system or leadership doesn't? This is a pretty powerful topic in its own right, but for this video, we'll stay focused on service accountability and agreements. Actually, perhaps what we'll do is we'll discuss this topic in a future video. Let us know if you'd like to do so in the comments below. So a good agreement improves efficiency and effectiveness because everyone knows what to expect, how things work, and why explicitly. Often service agreements are unfortunately long, clunky affairs, documents filled with language that looks almost, well, like a contract, filled with legalese. And this isn't necessary and in fact is counterproductive. In the end, contracts should provide clarity and simplicity. Sometimes that right thing isn't clear at first, especially in the heat of the moment. And this is where A Few Good Men delivers its most memorable scene involving the conflicts that can arise from implicit agreements.
If you gave an order that Santiago wasn't to be touched, and your orders are always followed, then why would Santiago be in danger?
Whoops. In this moment, Jessup is confronted with the gap between what he formally ordered and what he implicitly expected, or what he instructed Kendrick to do in private. His deniability falls apart when these two can no longer be reconciled. And this is what implicit agreements do. They allow leaders to preserve authority while shifting risk downstream, often to frontline team members with serious consequences. Teams will say that they avoid agreements because they want to, quote unquote, be flexible. And this may be true in a lot of cases to some extent. But often what they really want to avoid is holding the sometimes rather difficult conversations up front. Better to work through and document those expectations instead of forcing team members to continually negotiate and guess. So in this video, we used A Few Good Men to discuss how simple and clear agreements can improve operations and reduce confusion and stress. Managing by agreement isn't about control. Rather, it's about looking out for your team by providing clear expectations. Agreements can eliminate or at least reduce constant negotiation that takes place when expectations are unclear. There are fewer surprises, fewer emotional escalations, less rework, and better psychological safety. Everyone wants to do the right thing, but agreements define what that right thing is. And metrics can help verify whether the right thing is happening, and continual review can help improve and refine expectations. Clear agreements don't slow teams down, but ambiguity certainly can. So here's your takeaway for today. Sit down with your team and discuss which process or expectations may be vague or unclear. For example, the processes between teams, such as the service desk and service teams. And ask, would establishing a clear agreement help? So thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a thumbs up. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe. Also, if you enjoyed this video, you might enjoy our video on effective negotiations or our video on managing stress in service management. Thank you for watching. Have a fantastic day, and we will see you in the next video. Bye-bye now.